insightful. And Disha, maybe if you wouldn't mind, I'll come to you and see if you had any thoughts about the same point. Do you think the movement in support of climate action is growing as fast as it needs to?
I think, honestly, the movement has grown tremendously because a lot of times I forget how young we are as a movement because we only started in 2018 and it hasn't even like fully been 5 years yet. Um, and we're already huge. We have millions of people who join us on to strike on the streets for climate justice, and that is a huge number of people who are passionate about taking climate action. What I would like to see grow faster is action by politicians instead of actually wondering if the movement's gotten bigger and better because we have grown beyond what I can even comprehend sometimes. And I keep saying this in general, but sometimes we don't really understand how the larger movement works because there's so many of us and it can get so chaotic. And I actually love it, but I don't think that is a problem at all. I think we should focus on um, checking checking how fast action is being taken or not being taken by world leaders.
Thank you, and it's great to hear the joy in your voice as you talk about that. And I think it is a really important point that, you know, to really remember that possibly this mass support hasn't actually been around for that long. This movement is still fairly new, but has taken the world by storm. Adriana, maybe I'd come to you to start on my next question. And this is a bit more of a personal question, but I think something really important to talk about, especially when you're so young and working on the front line of climate action. The psychological strain and the pressures can be a lot from doing this work, from trying to change systems, from trying to change the world, really. And I was wondering if you had anything you wanted to share about your experiences with this pressure and anything that you do to cope with the work that you do.
So there's, as Disha said, we're really young, not only as a movement, but also as we are sometimes even young people, teenagers. When I joined the movement, I was 17, so it was my first experience doing anything related to like climate change and interacting with people around the world fighting the same issues. So it's really hard sometimes, the pressure that some groups or like some people put on us and the expectations that we have to act like an organization or like individuals who have been doing this for all of their life when we haven't. This is like for many of us, it's our first experience. But within this climate justice movement and within these experiences, you find like friends, you find people, and not only you as like you assimilate with them because you're fighting for the same issues, but because you believe in the same stuff, but also because you work with them daily and you see them and you go to calls with them and you interact with them, so you become friends. I've met first Anna, I met Evelyn. I haven't met Disha, but we have like talk like online, and it just feels like sometimes when I talk with them or like when I even just say hi, it just feels like you have someone who is right there fighting alongside you. So it's not like you are alone suffering this pressure of changing the system, because everyone who is with you wants to change the system. So it's relying so much in your friends.
Thank you for that. It sounds like we might have a phone ringing somewhere on this panel. But thank you. That is, you know, a powerful thing to hear, and also to acknowledge that everybody in this is kind of looking out for each other. Everybody here is working towards the same aims. And Evelyn, I don't know if you've had any similar experiences to Adriana, either way, with the pressure that you faced, the support that you felt. But how have you found coping with the pressure of doing this really important work?
I agree with everything Adriana has talked about, Hazana and Disha, doing activism is not so easy. It's emotionally draining, physically draining, and at the end of it all, when the leaders continue making decisions that are just frustrating us, it gets more draining and more frustrating. But what keeps me hopeful and optimistic is appreciating the work that we are doing every day as the young people. When we hold marches and speak up, and people are not ready to give up, the young people are speaking up every day. And yes, the decisions are so slow from the leaders, but from my country, and I've seen so many activists from different parts of Africa taking grassroots, like individual actions at grassroots level, like tree planting, like promotion of renewable energy, empowerment of young girls and women. All these things keep me optimistic that the young people are not just speaking, they're not just doing nothing. They are taking action. They're acting like the adults here. And as we speak up, we are doing something in our communities and our environment. So this is something that gives me strength every time I'm trying to give up. And also my faith in God, in Christianity. There's somewhere where it was written in the Bible that God instructed humanity to replenish the earth and protect it. And replenishing, it means refilling, recharging, and restoring the planet. And if we don't replenish the earth, it will die and will have nothing left. So this also keeps me hopeful that I'm doing this, and also God knows that it's the right thing to do, and we have to protect the planet. So I have all these things that I'm holding on to that are giving me strength and hope to keep speaking up, to keep and keep fighting. And voices are rising up, like Fazana talked, and Adriana. The movement started with very few people, but right now it is so big, and we cannot even tell how many people we are, but it's really very big. So this keeps us hopeful and empowered that we can do this together.
Yeah, thank you. And I think this is such an important issue to kind of focus on. And I think, like, it's interesting to say some of you sometimes forget how young you are. I also think maybe sometimes the world might forget how young you are. And, just because I think this is such an important thing to talk about, I might see if one more person maybe wants to share their experience of this pressure, or any other experience, that they felt whilst working on the front line of climate, and how they have dealt with that. I don't know, Disha, would you maybe want to step in if you have something you'd like to share?
I don't think I have a very positive answer for this, because this is a question that I know all of us have been asked multiple times. But honestly, I personally don't believe I have a good way to cope around all of this, because there's the pandemic that's going on, and in my own city, the cases are rising. Along with that, the impacts of the climate crisis are already being experienced firsthand by my community. In India, we had heat waves, and then we had flooding in my own city, because it was a really odd time also, because in May the whole country was experiencing heat waves, but my city experienced the second coldest winter it had in May in 50 years. And now, right at this moment, there are 1.2 million people impacted by floods in the northeastern part of my country. And I feel like I don't really cope well with this, because I feel like people expect us to give them hope, or tell them that, it'll be okay. But some days it honestly doesn't feel like that. And I don't have an answer on how to even make it through these days, because I don't. I remember in May, when the heat waves were at its peak, I didn't know what to do. I had nothing intelligent to say about the whole issue that we were facing. The whole world had an opinion on it. But for me personally, I was traveling, I experienced the heat wave, then I came back to my city to monsoons and flooding in my own house. But I didn't have anything clever or intelligent to say about it, because it was just hard. It was hard to just get through it. And sometimes I feel like I don't have hope to offer to people because I'm 23. I don't have all the answers. I honestly don't think I'm supposed to have all the answers. So a lot of days I don't cope well, but what does get me through is just being with the community. And don't necessarily cope, but at least it helps me continue doing this work for another day and honestly just taking it one step at a time. And this is like very, very honest.
No, thank you for that incredibly honest answer. And I think that's probably a really important answer for people to hear. All of you, I'm sure, are in the limelight a lot for the work that you've done, and people must often look to you for these answers and for this sign of hope. And sometimes I guess it's okay to not have an answer